Hi, my name's Jamila Hardy, and I've just graduated from the fashion photography course at London College of Fashion. For this final submission, I decided to make a short film. Obviously, due to quarantine, I had a lot planned beforehand, obviously, which couldn't happen because of COVID-19. So I decided to dedicate the whole project to looking at myself and my heritage, and it kind of became a self-discovery journey. I'm someone that's from three different cultures, I like to say, because I'm Ugandan, I'm from Sierra Leone, and then obviously I've been born and brought up here in England. So it's kind of like three different set cultures. I'd say I'm very obviously London culture, that's all I know, and then obviously my culture's back home. I'd say being from like three different cultures, it's sometimes I found it hard sometimes to navigate. Would I say I'm British? Would I say I'm African? Because vice versa, I don't ever really feel at home no matter where I'm placed because of that kind of thing. And then I found the term third culture kid, which is basically kids like me where we've been brought up in the West, but we're very far away from the motherland, which is where our parents come from. So I really wanted to kind of play against that. I found that really interesting. I had no idea that there was a term for kids like us, kids like me, I should say. So yeah, it was kind of just kind of really honing in on this sense of belonging and like this longing to belong, when really it's fine to not belong, if that makes sense. Like you can kind of be in your own league. And I feel like there's so much power in that. So that's definitely a lot of where the inspiration came from. I did a lot of personal and like primary research for myself. Did a lot of souvenirs. I did a lot of surveys and interviews, and I found out that a lot of my friends felt the same way. Like obviously being brought up here in the West, but being really far away from home, which is their parents' home, and kind of not knowing which label to take. So that helped massively when it came to making the film, and that's kind of how the spoken word was born. And then obviously dialogued by my mother, spoken by my mother, sorry, I should say, in the mother tongue, and then obviously the music from Luke Williams. So the methods that I use, I shot everything on my iPhone. Like I said, I just tried to document. When it came to filming myself, I took inspiration from actors' self-tapes to kind of just in terms of like composition and how they would usually do it. I found that quite fascinating. So I really tried to bring that into my work. And the decisions I made, it was little things such as kind of aesthetic choices. I wanted to keep it grainy, so I found an overlay, like a grain overlay, and I did it all in Premiere Pro and kind of edited. I made like I made the footage a lot slower than what it was to kind of give you an effect that is kind of back in the day. But that was only for aesthetic choices, as I predominantly shoot on film when it comes to photography, so I wanted to translate that even more into moving image.
My concept is an unseen and archived photo album that is created by my grandmother and I. Started as an inspiration was the fashion that my grandmother had, and how she kept the clothes until now in a proper condition, and she would always say that she would keep it for her grandchildren when ever we wanted to wear it. Again, I took the route of bringing back what inspired me to do fashion photography in the first place, which was actually archiving and retro photos of my family. So I took that into account and used it as an inspiration till the end. While this project was taking place, Kuala Lumpur was on partial lockdown due to the global pandemic of COVID-19. So I was constantly using whatever I could in the house and also finding research with whatever items that was left in the house as well, because I live with my grandmother. So I used and looked at all the photo albums that she had archiving in the storeroom. I was always used to collaborating with professional and practicing creatives in terms of making a project work. So due to the partial lockdown and COVID-19, everything was put to a halt. So I collaborated with my sister and my grandmother. So we did the styling, makeup, as well as the direction. For 3 days, we did the shoot. With this, not only did we create a personal work, but we manifested a project that we both love, which was fashion photography, and to see how clothes can actually be worn on someone and how it really brings out the essence of a person through clothing.
Hey, I'm Liberty James and I just finished studying BA Fashion Photography. My project began looking at moments and kind of how they depict life and love and dreams, and this is something I've always been interested in, kind of documenting like real life and kind of my life. I think this project kind of made me understand who I am as a photographer and find out what I like to do and what I actually love to photograph, because throughout these few years I've really tried out so many different pathways, styles, cameras, as you can imagine, and that's something I would really recommend to any aspiring photographer, is to really try it all until you find out what you love. Although I started looking at moments, I fell into kind of like a surf skate theme, and I began photographing surfers and skaters all over the world via the screen. I basically began just contacting people that I've met all over the world, because I love travelling, and I've kind of met people who surf and skate and do wakeboarding just from like camps I've been at and like being around, like just being friends with people, I guess. And I contacted them and FaceTimed them and took my actually digital camera, which I'm not used to. I love shooting on film, and this is something I've always loved throughout the 3 years, so it's actually like a good thing that I started shooting digital, and it made me like regain my confidence using my digital camera. Essentially I wanted to do a visual diary about my life and like my experiences, but it became like a documentation of like my virtual journeys all over the world, being at home, still engaging with the surfers and skaters, and it was kind of me jumping into their world and like creating a moment with them and like creating a connection and experience and really like capturing them raw, because there was nothing that I could really control. This did make a pure moment and like a real moment, and that's kind of why it's called ebb and flow, because life goes up and down. It's all about regrowth.
The story here of this final major project that I did was about how coronavirus affected each one of us and obliged us to change and go back to our true selves, to our true self-caring people. And basically it defines how love and creativity for creative people is the only thing that could get us through and that made us stronger. And since storytelling is something that I really like to incorporate in my projects, the 5 projects that I chose to portray in the graduate showcase are projects that I believe really represent my aesthetic and what are my passions in photography. So each one of us shows the strong aesthetic that my images have, which is defined by a strong use of contrast, of colors and lights. That's why I really have popping colors that I can achieve through the use of digital cameras. And in these pictures you will find unique characters that belong to invented worlds, because my aim in fashion photography is not just to sell clothes, but I really am interested in understanding how people react to fantasy worlds and worlds that are not representing just reality, so that they're allowed to dream and wonder, that the characters look into the cameras and there's a particular attention into the use of eyes. In that way the characters can connect to the viewers and they can kind of transmit some of the feelings. That's why I'm really interested in portraiture, what people have to say, and understanding humans' behaviors. That's why I always try to incorporate interesting behavioral elements in my pictures too.
My project was about the relationship I had and how they dealt with my journey of my depression. I decided to look into my past and find out about why I had depression and how it affected the people around me. And I used primary research as my main source of inspiration throughout the project. I think the main decisions that I needed to make was how deep I wanted to dive into my vulnerability, as well as how I was going to create my final film and images during COVID-19.
This project has been a series of investigations and exploration in the last 6 months about the idea of home and the family, and how in our life we keep on researching as some sort of shelter and nest. For this reason, I've been traveling before the lockdown in Italy and UK to document where I'm from, which is like my city Naples, and which are like the people and the places who actually leave us a trace in my own life. For this reason, the project started as a sort of documentation exploration, quite unconsciously, of different events and portraying different people who are much present, like my family, my original one, and my second one, which is based in London, and I chose, which are my friends and my community. And my boyfriend, my hometown, and my home house, and actually the house that I live in London. All decorate these places, all interiors actually managed to give a certain sense of comfort. This has been indeed a recognition of my life in itself, open up a window of where I'm from, what's my community, what I'm about, what's my sexuality, where my family, and all these things to actually make myself a distinctive identity across the fashion industry.
I find this one a little bit of a hard question because I still feel like I'm trying to find myself and my style. I'll guess definitely try and hone into yourself, so anything to do with your identity or just anything that you like to indulge in. Just continue to shoot and experiment. Sometimes the best work comes out without having a plan, and it's pure experimenting, which was how my film was born, really hybrid. Another advice is time management. Just be good with your time, especially if you're coming to uni to do a creative course. That is my biggest advice to everyone.
My advice to young emerging fashion photographers is to step away from the idea that all photos need to be perfect, and to normalize the idea of making mistakes and to document your thought process, because sometimes the idea that doesn't come into execution is the idea for the future.
Like for aspiring photographers, I really recommend you to do everything you can and try everything, even if you think you're going to hate it, because I would never ever have thought I would love to do like digital photography, because I've been so like in love with film for the last 3 years, ever since I discovered it. But actually like having a love for both really opens up a lot of like pathways for you in the future, and I think no matter what, be confident with who you are and what you like doing, because not everyone's going to love your work, and some people will love it and some people are like, oh, that's a bit strange, like why did you do that? But as long as you love it, that's like literally all that matters, and you will go far no matter what. You just have to be happy.
If I were to give a tip to new students, it would be to always show their interest in everything that they do, and to always try from the very beginning to find people to work with, because this is the place, university is the place where you can make mistakes. If you find someone who you think you might like to work with, just go and... But the sooner you find the people who you'll work with in a team, you work well in a team, that's better, that's the best thing. As then once you leave university, that's the time where you will already have your team and you'll just be able to work professionally, and you'll achieve the best things, the best projects. I even wanted to say congratulations to all the students, graduating students that managed to get through this period of coronavirus and managed to put together a project for the final major project. And also good luck to all the new students that will enter London College of Fashion or University of the Arts London. I think you will find it a very interesting environment and a challenging place definitely to collaborate.
I think knowing your technical knowledge can help you a lot, but also it's important to have confidence in what you're about to create, your concept, and don't be shy in looking into the uncomfortable or your vulnerability. I find that you can create a lot from that, and it can be your strength.
I believe the fashion speaks about identities and cultures, and photography is about communication. It's just a medium, as other mediums can be, like paintings, new medias, drawings, and different others. For this reason, one advice that I deeply found interesting and actually encouraging for myself has been understanding the society I'm living in. Fashion indeed speaks about people or the moment in the current moment. And if a political situation, if an historical event affect us, if certain battles for like gender recognitions, or racism against racism and other stuff like that, fashion will be surely affected by that. As communicators, indeed, our roles is to from one reason is to understand our medium. What's photography? Why we do photography? Why we choose photography? And why what photography allow us that other mediums don't? Another thing is to understand our past and our history. What's the history of photography? What's the history of fashion photography? Why in the 90s photography was all about certain things? Why they're in chic? Why this is happening? And I think questioning all certain things allow us as communicators, and fashion communicators in particular, to understand and to read better the actual current situations. How COVID is going to affect us, how COVID is going to affect campaigns, how COVID is going to affect our choice in the wardrobe, how we're going to go out. These are all questions we can answer only by reading the actual moments and our history. And this, I think, is a really important advice, especially considering that each artist, each generation of artists, has their own zeitgeist. Why in 2020 photographers are much more likely to shoot on film, why certain themes are becoming more current, why gender and sexuality has been embraced once again. It seems like, again, some sort of coming back to 90s, but actually we live in a situation very likely to a sort of crisis very similar to what it was felt with the sense of alienation that was in the 90s. So definitely advice would be to read anthropologically and socially what's the situation and what's going on.
Oh, I don't know. I never took a gap year. I kind of been in education from the start to the end now. I've finished uni. So I think what I really, really want to do is kind of just take time to maybe travel. Hopefully hopefully COVID comes to an end, or it comes to like an all-time low where things can open up again. I would like to travel, document traveling, so shooting as I'm like around the world. I kind of just really want to take the time to kind of find myself and like really hone in more my individual style when it comes to my work. So I feel like I need to breathe for a little bit, but obviously in that time, hopefully I'm applying for internships. I'm going to try and keep us busy and trying to like get maybe odd jobs here in industry. Any experience I can get, I'm going to try to get it in. I guess this is my gap year finally. So I think that's what's next to me in terms of after LCF, but hopefully maybe I can chip in, like pitch in again in like a year or so, and I'm somewhere really great and stable, God willing. So we'll just see what the future really holds, but I think right now I'm going to take a massive breather and just kind of find myself and find my style and just continue making work, really.
My plan after LCF is to bring forward the creative freedom that I had received as a student and as a creative in London for the past 3 years while studying in London College of Fashion into Kuala Lumpur. I want to amplify the voices that I had received while in London as well into Kuala Lumpur, and work on my independent zine that I started during my first year in LCF, which is called Mula Zine.
I would love if like my ideal thing would have been to go travelling and kind of like continue capturing these moments with people I meet all over the world, and hopefully exhibiting my work when I got back, and then going on to like becoming like a freelance photographer. But at the moment that's a bit on hold, so I'm not sure. I may do a master's because I really want to make the most of this year, like while saving up to go travelling.
This BA gave me the possibility to really understand and fully be able to create a photographic work, a photographic project. And now I would like to move into moving images and other forms of media. That's why my next step for the future is that I'm going to study at Royal College of Arts, starting from September in the course of Digital Direction. And this is a course about storytelling through new media, so AR, VR experiences. And I think that is going to be something very thrilling, and that will allow me to expand my horizons and also give me new technologies to really try to explore the field of new medias.
I think I'd like to create stories through moving images by using interesting people or having interesting people in them from different classes, and create something unique with fashion sprinkled on top.
Definitely, the idea to make up a book would be like some sort of effort and investment actually to start to get ready some sort of agent or any way to show to to brands that I've been working already with in the latest 2 years or that I'm gonna engage in the future some sort of body of work which is much likely to be completed. Definitely, I think a book allows a photographer to kind of like start and close a chapter on something, and it itself is some sort of like checkpoint in order to go back and see where to start again or where to improve or like where to move on.